Directors Work Session. This is Chair Catherine Harrington. I'm joined by Directors Pam Trees, Nafisa Fai, and Jason Snyder, and we have Director Jerry Willie online. So we have one major item on today's work session, but before we do that, could we make sure we do introductions around the room? So I'll start. Catherine Harrington, elected chair of the board of directors.
Pam Treese, CWS Director, District 2. Courtney Brown, Senior Assistant General Counsel. I'm here filling in for Caroline Lobdell. This week is my 1-year anniversary at Clean Water Services.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Rick Shanley, Interim CEO / General Manager.
Jason
Snyder, CWS Board of Directors, District 3.
Nafisa Fai, CWS Board of Directors, District 1.
Board clerks.
Kevin Moss, your clerk to the board for both agencies.
Brett Hodges, clerk to the board 1 for both agencies.
And
Executive Management Analyst at CEO. Morning, Elizabeth Edwards, Chief of Staff with Water Services.
oh, you guys are going to present in a minute. Okay, great. Well, and I know we have a member of our public here in the meeting as well. Everyone is welcome to attend. These are public meetings, and we do try to make sure we have a welcoming environment. So without further ado, let's dive into our major agenda item for today to review and discuss the Clean Water Services General Manager interview and selection process.
Chair, just for the record, Jerry Willie, Clean Water Services Board of Directors, District 4.
My apologies, Director
That's
Willie.
okay. Out of sight, out of mind, I know.
No,
Could you repeat that? Who are you?
Thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you here. Take it away, Ms. Edwards.
Thank you so much, Chair and CWS Board of Directors. For the record, Elizabeth Edwards, Chief of Staff here at Clean Water Services, joined by
Heather Gantz, Senior Manager, Raptelis. Good morning.
So we have just a few slides to go through. We're going to run through the timeline and status of recruitment. We'll talk about a proposal for the interview process, and then spend the majority of the time in board discussion. You have seen a bit of us recently. This is where we are on our roadmap. We are on schedule and moving apace. The purpose of this work session is to discuss and define the interview process and selection. I'm going to turn it over to Heather to share a little bit about how it's going so far.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have 40 applications as of this morning, so recruitment is going 40. We have folks from all over 10 different states so far, and a couple of folks from honestly outside of the United States have applied for this position, but 40 all in. We're expecting to see a considerable increase in that over the weekend as we are nearing our first review date next week. But things are going well. I'm having really good, strong conversations with folks that are expressing interest, answering their questions, providing additional information, and anticipate some of those individuals applying over the weekend. So going well so far. We're excited.
Good.
So I'll then turn the page onto the proposal. And Heather, I might have you walk through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, we have 40 applications. We're reviewing those on an ongoing basis as they apply. We're looking at them for not only meeting minimum qualifications, veterans preferences, and other things. And then we'll be starting to conduct the first round screening interviews next week. And then the following week before we put together the materials in the packet for your confidential review. We want to talk today about the 2 interviews that you will be a part of. The first one is that first semifinal, first round interviews, and then of course the in-person interviews. For the first round, Elizabeth and I have spent some time talking about potential options, we recommend doing these virtually as we would typically do so that if we have out of state or out of the area candidates, we're not incurring any costs associated with travel or any, and not making any inequitable for in-person versus virtual. So all of those would be virtual is the recommendation to board members. Elizabeth, myself, and then a subject matter expert would be our recommendation. Do we want to talk about each?
So you just
Each-
need 2 board members.
Mhm.
So,
Unless we want to have that's our recommendation,
yeah, okay.
just in terms
I'm
of
just
time.
wondering at what point you want us to discuss this, now or
Well,
later?
I think we should discuss each phase
yeah.
separately. So if we want to discuss the semifinal stage and then we can jump into the final stage, unless you want me to review our recommendation for the final stage and we can jump into it all. What would be your preference?
Let's do each stage as
Okay.
you were highlighting. So I know Commissioner Treese has been or is the current board lead on this process. So I'm hoping that you
My hands
will.
up.
And from that, is there another board member that you would like to have join you?
I volunteer, sorry, I didn't realize the question was going to.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I think Jason.
I think we might have even talked about that before, but I wasn't sure. So since it came back up, so thank you to the 2 of you for doing that. I know it will, and to all of you involved, I know it will involve time.
Yeah, we're appreciative of it, and the time is held on your calendars. And for board members that are not participating in the semifinal interview, we will release that time after this discussion and once we land on the specifics.
Yep. And then we also recommend a potential subject matter expert just for additional visibility and looking at people's backgrounds from a technical standpoint.
You're looking
I
to
think
us
I
to
think
define that?
we would love for Rick to participate, but that would be a recommendation if Rick is available and interested and willing to participate.
Available, interested, and willing, and would be excited
Yeah.
to do.
Make our job.
Yes.
We don't need to be so somber, but thank you very much.
We appreciate it, Rick.
Yeah, thank
That's very
Perfect.
gracious.
Oh,
I
that would
much
be great.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so and then of course we will in our candidate review meeting in executive session, we will be looking at potential interview and questions there so we can dig into those details in that meeting as we're looking at candidates as well. So making sure that we've got good full board discussion on the interview questions that we'll ask in both phases of our process. And then we would look to, from those first round interviews, narrow it down to 2 to 3 candidates, ideally that we would bring to the organization for in-person interviews. It's our recommendation that we have a 2-day process. The first day would be a pretty inclusive tour. Looking at the different facilities, meeting staff at those facilities, learning more about the work of Clean Water Services. We expect that to be a good couple of hours. We want to make sure that we're providing some really wonderful overview and information about not only the facilities and the work that Clean Water Services does, but the geographic area particularly for those that may be out of town.
You'd be doing that where you'd have 2 to 3 candidates on day one. Each of them would have a 2 or 3 hour segment where they're doing that activity.
We would-
Or you'd be moving them all around.
We would likely do the tour together, where those
Together,
candidates would be
okay.
together,
Okay.
unless the board wants to separate them out.
I just
but
wondered what you were.
Pretty
envisioning.
common practice to have the candidates be together for a
Okay.
tour.
If we don't hear you describe it, we won't know.
Yep, okay. Sure. So I recommend a tour where all candidates are together, and we
Okay.
have a couple of tour guides. We have a main driver that focuses on driving. We have 1 or 2 tour guides that are in the vehicle discussing and sharing information throughout the course of the drive, and then potentially handing it off to some folks at the different facilities where those experts can share a bit more about the particular facilities and the work in those facilities. It's twofold there. It gives the candidates some great information, and they're hearing directly from subject matter experts in those facilities, and it gives some of the staff an opportunity to interact with the candidates as well.
And to show their pride in workplace.
Yes.
I'm just curious why you do recommend doing them all together as opposed to separately. Sometimes it's kind of a sort of an interview on its own when you have individual contact with folks and do tours, and it's a more relaxed environment that so I'm just curious why you recommend that over
Done
the
it
other
both
options.
ways. We found that when we do a joint tour, one, it saves time, and it allows an opportunity for the candidates to interact with other candidates, which is actually something that is appreciated and valued by candidates. I know it sounds odd and silly, but they actually do enjoy being around other people that are in their professional networks. They meet people that they wouldn't have otherwise met. And it does allow for the tour guides to see how they interact with one another as well, right? Do they play off of each other? Is one silent? Is one monopolizing the time? There's some things that you can pick up from putting folks together that you don't necessarily get from individual tours.
It also has the advantage of making sure that they each have the same experience. I want to make sure, I'll just say it now, that for that employee engagement, it, as well as with the extended exec leadership team, we'll have to get to that in a minute. The interview process is, we need to make sure that anyone who has contact through this process, that they know this isn't just about grilling the candidates and getting to know the candidates. We're selling ourselves as much as the candidates are selling themselves to us. And it is incumbent upon everyone to make sure that we're giving the candidates the opportunity to get to know Clean Water Services, but also get to know the area as well. So
it's not a test.
Yeah,
It's not a candidate test, and I think
it's really about sharing information with the candidates in this, and for them to ask questions and be curious. Of course, candidates will have done research. Some may be familiar with the area, others may not, but it is a wonderful opportunity for staff, for those of us that are involved in the process to really highlight what a great organization Clean Water Services is, the services that are provided, and the wonderful work that the staff does across the organization. And we would work internally to really lay out and formalize a tour, a plan as to where we're going, where we're stopping, how much time we're spending there. We would have direct conversations with staff that would be involved in those and setting expectations. And then, of course, how they can potentially provide some feedback to you all as well.
I think I got the answer. I want to make sure, Elizabeth and Rick, that you both are helping set the tone and tenor for the visit and the broader communication and connection with candidates.
And I'm also thinking of this as actually the first, in a way, first opportunity to even begin the onboarding discussion for whomever will be our future general manager, right? This is the sort of first impression that we get to make. And so it's very, very important to think about that and think about that in the context of sort of that overarching relationship.
I have a question for you, Heather, and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
The employee engagement, could you quantify the number of employees that you have in mind?
Yeah, so In addition to the tour, I would recommend that we do an employee engagement or forum. This would be moderated, so it would be a formal kind of Q&A with candidates, where staff would be invited to be in the audience to hear from the candidates. These questions would be very specific, leadership style questions, communication questions, things that staff would want to know about this general manager.
So set questions?
Predetermined, established questions. Yes.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I'm really a big fan of open forums for especially a position at that level and how to be hiring somebody at that caliber. So I'm really glad to hear there's going to be some kind of a forum where the employees engage. One of the positive experience I've had in terms of hiring high-level positions within this county, besides our 2 direct reports, it was the housing authority director, executive director, Molly Rogers is the candidate that ended up winning that job. But one of the things they did is, and you're right, you're spot on around having all candidates together. I think fairness facilitates fairness more importantly, but it also creates that harmony, and sort of like what you said. I'm just repeating back what you said around like environment that's relaxed and whatnot. But one of the things I really appreciated that forum and that process and that opportunity was it had external partners invited to that forum to be part of that process as well, and sort of interact. The candidates, all 3 candidates were up there one at a time, and they spoke about their qualifications and their experience and why they need this job and want this job and why they should be hired. So I'm wondering, with rebuilding trust, a lot of the movement and intentional work that we're doing to our city partners and our ratepayers, might be there an opportunity to include that. Like, how do we create that opportunity? Because I tell you, that was a really a great environment, great room to be in, and there were high level people who were doing housing stuff in not just in Washington County and not just in the metro area, but throughout Oregon too, that were coming to that forum to interact with it and had an interest to be part of that process. So what's your reaction?
If I might, I believe we discussed this when we went over the hiring process before. There is a very vastly different ecosystem for this position versus the Housing Authority Executive Director. So I don't think it's fruit and vegetables entirely. So I think you've followed the guidance from the board in terms of how you've constructed this 2-day approach. And I don't think it's appropriate during the hiring process to ask candidates to go beyond what you have documented here.
Were you planning to have any city managers or public works directors or anybody involved in any of the panels that you already had planned? I'm just curious.
Based on prior discussions, we had not anticipated asking additional external resources to be a part of the process. It was our understanding from earlier discussions that the interview panels would be in staff and board. With those that were involved in the process outside of the board, providing peer feedback to the board, so input for further discussion and decision making for the board, but none of the additional, whether it's the extended leadership team or those that were involved in the panel, the employees, they would not be making a recommendation. They would not be ranking the candidates. None of those things. They would just be providing input on all the candidates.
So if we
involved
could
in the process.
finish on day 1 before going into day 2 then, because that's where you're going now.
Yeah.
Board members, do you have any other questions on day 1? Okay.
Right.
My only question is with regard to assuming you've got people who come in from elsewhere, doesn't matter from where, I'm assuming they would have done so on day 0. And then there's day 1 and day 2. And
Correct.
in some other positions, when we've had external folks, we've asked them if they prefer to just have the evening on their own, or if they want to have dinner with any guest. And I think we should extend that invitation to them with no expectations whatsoever, because they may have responsibilities with their normal day jobs to get back to as well. But Heather, I would think that that invitation is best extended from you, and that it includes the option of this is not obligatory at all. This is just to give you any informal time for Q&A conversations, things like that. But so that is really the only question I have amongst the day timeframes, with the exception of more specifics on day 2. So, okay,
Would we do those one candidate at a time?
I don't know.
Okay.
So let's just get through day 2 and then come back to it.
Okay, and I've got a couple of options that we could do there.
So day 2.
Day 2 would be interviews. We would do 3 panel interviews as we have laid it out here. One would be with the full board. And then with the extended leadership team, we would split that group into 2, just because it's a large group and we wouldn't want to do that group as
Could
one.
we review how many there really are? I didn't think we had.
So on the executive leadership team, it's quite small at this point. We're 5, but we have a extended executive leadership team that includes directors. And we've been calling them sort of the ELT plus.
And what's that number
That's about 10 people
total with the
total.
We've found from a candidate experience standpoint, having a smaller panel
Yes.
it makes for more, conversation and better interaction.
I'll
So
just say I wasn't expecting an ELT plus, but that's all. But the other thing I want to make sure is that we went through this with our county council interviews, making sure that those panels know their job is to provide information.
Yep.
Not a recommendation, and making sure that every member of the team knows that individually as well as for the group. Easier said than done.
but
And that they have one designated report out person.
it worked well. I thought.
Yeah.
I think.
But it took
communication-
conscious work.
Yes, to
to
make
set it
sure
up.
there was an understanding of what the role was. But
Yeah.
it was good feedback in the room when we heard what the feedback was, as well as I think that the participants were satisfied with the interaction as well.
So when we say they're not making a recommendation, so you're intending to have this group, 2 different groups, to sort of interview the people and then give the second group, the Rick and the 5 executive.
No,
Just walk us through that.
Yeah,
process.
absolutely. So with the 2 panels outside of the board, we'll focus on the 2 executive leadership team plus group. We would have a panel facilitator in each of those that would do a formal introduction to that panel, setting expectations with that group, walking them through the day, and then of course what we expect from them following the interviews. That same facilitator would welcome the candidates, do all of the organizing and facilitating of the actual interviews, and then once the interviews are complete, that same facilitator would guide the panel through a discussion and conversation about the candidates, soliciting feedback. We typically do that in 3 broad overarching categories: what we value and appreciate about the candidate, what they bring to the position, the organization, to the team, any concerns that they may have, and then continued curiosities or what they continue to be curious about, because we won't undoubtedly ask all the questions that somebody would want to ask in the time that we'll have with the candidates.
And then
So that additional curiosities, and then that facilitator will bring that information to the board.
So what is the second group doing?
The same thing.
Same thing?
Yep.
So
So two
I-
facilitators.
I'm not sure I see the value is where I'm going with this. Like, if there's two different groups who are going through the same process, is the goal here is to provide the extended executive leadership team an opportunity to participate? Is that the goal?
It's twofold. It's
Ah.
for the candidates, the opportunity to interact with staff and what would be the leadership of the organization. It provides the leadership of the organization an opportunity to interact with the candidates. You can ask more questions into panels too, so they won't be asking the same questions. They'll be asking different
And
questions.
it's less overwhelming for
And it is less overwhelming for the candidates when it's not a table full of 10 plus people.
And
Yeah.
plus we get the feedback.
And you get the feedback.
So
from-
there's really three.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to walk.
So the
I was a
candidates,
candidate myself.
they would be going through
exhaust-
3 interviews.
Yeah, and then what is the value, the output of that is what I'm trying to figure it out. Rather than, I get the value of having two different opinions, but I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to have one of the groups. Like, I guess I probably should wait and see the questionnaires they're going to ask each group so that I can weigh in. But I'm trying to figure out, how do we streamline this process to make it not exhaustive and to make it something that is going to have a value added at the end.
It totally mirrors what we did for the county council. Okay. And our candidates felt it was very valuable because it gave them the opportunity to get to know us as much as it is about us getting to know them. And it's just 3 panels, which is not atypical at all. And the 2 ELT plus panels provide the input to the board as part of our input discussion after we've interviewed both applicants.
We want the candidates to have a good experience too, and we want to give them the opportunity to interact with as many people across the organization so that they can get a feel for the environment and the culture, and where the opportunities are. We've put together some really wonderful recruitment materials. I will be having really wonderful conversations. They will have had a first round experience with a couple of the board members and a staff member, two staff members. And so we want to continue to give them that opportunity to explore this position, to explore if this is something that they want to take on. We're looking for somebody that wants to come to the organization and provide some stability for several years. And so we want to give them that wonderful opportunity to get their questions answered, get a feel for the people that they'd be working with, the organization, the work that the organization does, and creating an opportunity over the course of 2 days. We're not overwhelming them. We're giving them breaks. We're filtering in different spaces for them to take a deep breath, to relax, so they're not necessarily on for 2 full days, but this does give them the opportunity to really experience the organization.
Thank you, Heather. And one thing I remember from the county, I feel like now we're comparing vegetables and fruits, but I think one thing I remembered was, and I do agree with you, the expectation setting. And I don't know if, I'm sure you did that was happened on the county side too. But at the end of the day, we got a recommendation of we really thought so-and-so was the best candidate. And this is where we landed, kind of a thing. Candidate number 4 for anonymous. So that's how I remember that experience of the executive leadership. But right now we're having public conversation about the staff are not required to do a recommendation. So I think we need to level set our language and empower the staff to say, you do have a role in this, not just to fishbowl you and get information from you, but you actually meaningfully contributing who ends up to be the CEO. So I think where it's good that they're going to provide information that will be helpful to the board, but that wasn't the practice in the past. From what I remember, specifically, the staff came and presented and said, we all thought so and so board.
Well, one
That's how I
did
remember.
that, but
No.
it wasn't what was asked, and there were issues around that.
Yeah.
I think we
So
can
that's
do that.
whether it was
I don't-
asked
I
or
don't
not,
wanna
that's what
ask
they
that
came
question.
for.
I don't want to ask that
No.
question.
No.
That's what we want is input, and that sets up an expectation that that I think from a leadership perspective is concerning to me. I think that having the input and the kind of questions and sort of qualitative information you're providing is great. I thought it got real awkward in one of the county process I was involved in when, without requesting it, we started getting ranked information, and that was concerning to me. I would prefer to not see that.
And for me, the reason why I'm expressing that, I firmly believe people who are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. So when you have these executive leaders who are really living and breathing clean water services rules and regulations and processes, and they come and say, hey, you don't have to take our opinion, but we interviewed, this is what we thought was the best ideal ranking for us. I thought that was helpful. You know, at the end of the day, the board, we're independently elected, so we make the choice in consensus basis. So I'm not saying we will always agree with the staff, but I think their opinions matter. I think their inputs matter in a bit more aggressively than just like, here's the questions you ask, and we will take your feedback and goodbye, kind of a thing. So I want us. You're the experts here. I'm just providing feedback here, but I want you to build into an empowerment element into that process so that there is something that would outlive and something that people will be proud of.
So
I'd like to
hang
make-
on a minute. This is a board designed and designated process. So board member, we've heard put in numerous ways Commissioner Fai's expectations. Ms. Gantz has put together a process that follows our prior requests. Would you like to continue to move forward with the process as we've laid out, or board members, are you looking for any changes? I just want to make sure it's clear. We don't individually direct this. That's all. So
I think
I'll
you,
just-
Chair, to be fair, you directed to add something earlier too, without checking points. I think it's important to just have an opportunity to dialogue together and everybody just let's be engageful.
So board members, as we talked about earlier, we have some open questions to go back to the format of the 3 days in entirety. But this is back to day 2 and the setup of day 2 and what the board is looking for. Director Treese.
Thank you. I am part of the reason that we engage a professional organization is to provide us guidance and to bring to the table best practices. I am personally comfortable with where we are, and frankly, I don't want to minimize by saying that our employees' feedback is not valuable. It is highly valuable, but I think it's important in setting the expectations that it's not a recommendation is an important piece because it does set up expectations, as Director Snyder said earlier, and puts us into an awkward position. That doesn't limit the feedback that we get. And I found our feedback to be very valuable, and I intend to listen closely to all the feedback that we receive and to consider that as I participate in our responsibility to make the decision together. So the combination of having the professional organization, the engagement of the variety of important people in our system, I'm comfortable with.
Director Willie.
Hi, yes, thanks, Chair. I like the process that we've used before. Some words that have popped up in the conversation, exhaustive, and I guess get into the weeds. When we get into these two meetings with the ELT Plus and the facilitator, I kind of want that to be exhaustive. This is a very high profile, highly paid position that is in an area or an environment of complexity, and they've got to be have some excellent expertise, I guess, on this. So I'm thinking I like this process. I want to get feedback from the staff, because remember that then the staff who participate in these meetings go back to their group and have conversations with them. So it's a domino effect. And I think we're communicating a really strong message to the employees that we want to hear what their concerns are. We've done that already. We know what their concerns are with as far as the GM position. Now we need to hear what it is that they have expectations for this new person. And I think the more involvement we can provide them will help us long term. But bottom line, we make the decision, and I'm not willing to defer that to a process where the staff at any level have a vote. This is our decision, and we can't subordinate that to a staff panel interview. So I like the direction we're going, and certainly what we've done in the past, and so I would not recommend or encourage any modifications.
All right, Director Snyder, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I mean, I think I said my piece on this earlier. It remains unchanged.
Okay, so with regard to day 2, do you feel you
Yeah, I believe we have a good, strong process that will be dual purposing. It will allow the candidates to get to know the organization, and it will allow you as well as staff to get to know the candidates. We will allow and purposely build a schedule that allows for some breaks in between interviews so candidates can take a deep breath, right? But it's still putting them on the spot for a good amount of time, which this position will be. So we do want to make it somewhat complex, not easy process. And the input that you will receive from the additional stakeholder groups is going to be valuable. So you're making, ultimately we want to give you great information so you can make an informed decision. That's what this is all about.
Yep. And I will add, I know you've done things like this in other agencies before, and I very much appreciate that experience. But I also trust our 2 board liaisons, such that if you need to have pre-meetings with any of the employees in day 1 or day 2, that the 2 of you, as well as Ms. Gantz, can have whatever forums with those employee sets you need in advance. I know we spent a lot of time gaining input from all levels of the organization, including the board, for the job brochure. We have to hire to the job brochure. We're legally obligated to that. So I really appreciate the work that we've put into it. So for the entire package, then, I know I expressed one remaining question for myself. Is there anything else you want to discuss with us as the full board?
No, just a friendly reminder that we will be looking at interview questions when we have our executive session at the candidate presentation phase. So we didn't want to introduce that today. Wanted to just make sure that we were talking through the process. But when we come together on March 3rd, as we're in executive session discussing candidates and their backgrounds, we will also be looking at interview questions at that time as well.
Will we be looking at interview questions for just the board panel or for all the panels?
All panels.
Okay, perfect.
Would that be helpful? That
Yeah,
is my
otherwise I
intent.
was going to provide just a little bit of input, but I can do it during that time.
I guess I have, on the staff, the ELT plus questions, are they going to be given the opportunity to generate questions? Not that again, they'll all be used and it needs to be kind of a comprehensive look of different aspects, but
I think it is important to ask staff for input on topic areas. I don't typically ask them to generate a specific question, but if there are topic areas that they're interested in covering, then we can make sure that we have questions that address those topic areas.
great.
But also in terms of inviting that, we need to also underscore the job brochure.
Mhm.
And that's where we're very intentional.
Which is why I think the topic areas are beneficial more so than direct questions, because then we can make sure that the topic areas are aligned with the brochure, and then somebody's feelings won't be hurt if their question isn't worded the exact way that they wanted it to be worded.
Feel heard, but
Yes.
not compromise the process potentially. Great.
Any other questions, comments?
I'm just thinking more on during the tour process. And I don't know how others are going to feel about this, but I've been reflecting on the partnership aspects of this. I guess I'm wondering if at some of the facilities, as the tours are happening, if, one or two key leaders from the organizations that might be partners that are near those facilities might be a place to plug them into the process. It wouldn't be part of a formal interview process, but it would give them some exposure to the organizations that we interact with. And I mean, it's just an idea. I don't know what others think about that, but I do think about the word partnership related to our work here a lot.
I wonder though, which facilities are you thinking about? I have been assuming Rock Creek and Durham.
We hadn't formally plotted out the tour yet. So I would look to Rick and Elizabeth for some additional thoughts there.
I mean, Forest Grove also, because of the natural treatment system, potentially the opportunity to see the Ripple construction as far as, promoting some of the big projects. And I mean, I've seen it. It's very impressive. So I think, I don't know that we're ready to answer
So
that.
the problem with that is, with the exception of one city, our mayors and city councils are volunteers.
Yeah, and I'm not thinking that they would necessarily be the right people. I think it might be a city manager or public works director who is, whoever CWS on the staff side views as sort of their primary contact. That would be who I'd be looking to just give them some visibility to the process. And I realize not every, I would think someone from each partner organization should be invited to the place. Like, I'm not thinking it should just be 2 or 3 people for all, but we don't have a facility in every place. So it could be that, there might be 3 or 4 that would go to Durham. There could be 2 or 3 or 4 that go to Rock Creek and a couple to Forest Grove. And just the thought.
Yeah.
I don't know what is the, like, from your perspective as a general manager, what do you think about that?
Inviting some.
Yeah. To the tour process.
I'm certainly open to it. I assume each tour will start, kind of in a room. We'll be giving an overview. That would be an opportunity to mix and mingle a little bit. So I'm not opposed to that process.
We've done, as a kickoff to a tour, we've done just like a coffee welcome. You know, what that's,
Yeah.
30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes or so. That's, coffee and juice and maybe some pastries or bagels. And it's a welcome the candidates and thank them for being here, providing a little bit of an overview. And then, there's a little bit of mix and mingle there before we then put them in a van and send them off
head
on a
out.
tour. That could be an
That would seem like an
opportunity for
ideal
some partner
Yeah.
interaction. And it would be, 30 minutes of
Well,
manager
remember,
of
we
public
also
works
have
director's
the
time.
onboarding process where partners will definitely be involved with that. So I remember that.
That's a potential idea.
I think
If-
it's going to
if
be
we
more
want.
important to make sure that I think we've got the employee engagement at each of these locales than anything.
I think what I'm hearing Jason say, there's another piece to that, and that's really the partner feeling engaged. Is that the piece?
Well, and also emphasizing to the candidates that the partnerships with I think it's a multi faceted. Yes. I think there's multiple reasons to be doing that. It's demonstrating what we expect. It's allowing partners to have at least a little bit of engagement.
I don't think inviting them, our partners, just to a coffee is really as enticing as seeing the tour of a locale of one of the locales for the partner.
One of the things that we can do is highlight craft the tour in such a way that we are highlighting on one or two occasions different projects that were achieved through partnership and lift up what that partnership looked like and who we engaged with. So they wouldn't necessarily be present, but we could make sure that that was a strong current in the messaging that we were providing to the candidates as part of the tour.
Well, and hopefully part of the CWS packet you would provide each of these finalists would be the full suite of State of the Partner brochures.
A part of what we would provide the candidates is is materials and information, and we would work with Rick and Elizabeth and the team to design a tour and materials that we could share with the candidates.
I would not, if we do kind of have a central meeting, I wouldn't assume that it's just a coffee meeting, that there's things we can highlight. Again, some of the really things that we can try to get out on the tour, but also, highlighting some of the things that make Clean Water Services unique. And I can think of folks that could come and talk about some of those things that might be a little bit harder there's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
And that opportunity to also showcase that with the partners could be a value, but
And it's also demonstrating to the candidates the complex relationships that this job entails. I think that that's a huge piece of this too, is that we're not successful independently. We're not insulated and need that type of relationship building.
Another suggestion is when we did the county council and even perhaps with the county administrator national searches, we utilized ETV, Explore Tualatin Valley, and they put together a little packet for us that had the latest copy of the Inspiration Guide and many of the other area brochures and maps as well.
Kind of help with the community introduction.
Quality of life.
Overall
Yep.
community
Yeah.
quality of life.
Yep.
great.
I remember when, are you replicating that tour we had in Toronto?
Oh.
Where you're mostly on a bus. We're going to try to avoid that.
Yeah, do not be on the bus. Yeah, a long time, but
Jerry's eyes are rolling in his head.
yeah. It's very, besides we have had a bit of a distance issue, but the stuff we saw was very, very inspiring and very exciting. So I think and I wasn't even a candidate, so I
It
think.
was an endurance test.
Yeah. Oh,
Long days, yeah.
yeah, it was so that's
We want to make sure that the
distance wise.
Yeah, we want to make sure the tour is interactive though. And so it not just they're in a van and they don't get out, right? We want them to get out and meet with other people in these locations. And so I like to say it's an interactive tour.
Yeah, one of the most
Inspiring.
exciting.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I had to vote for a site, site number one to start with, or I mean, I mean, as a board members, I think by now we've all seen almost all the facilities, I would say. I say almost because I need to check the names. But Durham is really, I think you see a wealth of almost the magnitude of what Clean Water Services does in a way that is also like super clean, super. So I feel like, and then you also see like some of the innovations that you're working on to get. So I thought Durham, when I first saw, it gave me a wealth of knowledge to sort of level set my own knowledge about clean water services, and it exudes that innovation, research based. So I like Durham. Thank you. It's far away from where I live, but
We'll let our staff know. I'll think that's your favorite.
no, no. As the chair said, I'm not recommending anything. Just my own excitement. This isn't a recommendation. You'll pick the right thing.
I just want to remind all of us, and I think we've talked about this going through this process. The goal is to have the right candidate and have the right have the candidate want us and us want the candidate. I mean, that's the goal. And to the chair's point early on, we're selling ourselves as well as the candidate selling themselves. So, and where those two things meet is where we're going to be in the sweet spot.
Yeah. I have a question for you, curiosity question, just for my own edifications. The two out of the states that applied, and out of the country, I should say, but what countries are those?
Oh, I don't have. I didn't.
I don't think that's.
Yeah, I don't have that information.
That's why I said I prefaced my own edification. But the point is, joking aside, I was trying to connect to the clean water services trips that we went in the past. If those countries we were something, so there's a value yield of those trips is where I was going with that. So it will be interesting to see. Hopefully, it's one of those.
Yeah.
And on
countries.
March 3rd, you'll have more information on
Yeah.
that in a confidential manner.
Directors, thank you so much for this feedback. Is there anything else that you would like to provide?
Good work. Thank you.
Heather, we'll get that on February 25th, right?
You'll get the information, yes, but the actual
Discuss it.
meeting will be discussed on the 3rd. Yes.
Make sure I'm tracking the.
I want to make sure that you have plenty of time to review the materials and read through the information prior to our meeting on the 3rd.
For the two who participate in that.
That's all we have for you today.
Okay,
Thank
terrific.
you so much.
Thank you. Next,
That Chair, sorry, the last comment you made causes me to ask to have questions. The February 25th, the materials being delivered, that's to the whole board, right?
That is correct. And our
And
meeting on the
And the March 3rd is the whole board discussing candidates and questions. Then the group of two would be involved in the semifinal interviews.
that is correct.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yes.
oh, yes, I'm sorry.
That slide.
That's okay. That seemed like a really, I wanted to make sure I understood.
I was thinking about the semi-final interview.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
We will go forward and conduct those, but it'll be based on input from the whole.
Got it.
Correct. In the meeting on the 3rd, the whole board will determine who will move forward to those interviews that then you and Director Treese will be a part of. Correct.
You see, I think I also find there's a bit of an unfair built into that, don't you think? If the five of us have a decision, shouldn't it be not a board member to decide which candidates come to the board? and not necessarily two board members if it's not.
I mean, I think it's important to have board input in those first round interviews. Our recommendation was to have two individuals so that the full board wasn't taking a full day or two full half days from time.
I wasn't
So-
thinking, when you first articulated, the way it came across was sort of like interview, and then they would do the interview. I wasn't thinking of they will trigger down. Like if the top candidates are 5, I don't think it's appropriate for 2 board members to send to the 3 of us, 3 of those 2 candidates. I think it should be.
Happening though,
I
we're
think
part of a panel that will be conducting the semifinal interviews. It's not just the 2
And
board
a larger
members.
group than 5, most likely 10.
I think that process is not correct for me as an individual. I don't think who advances for the full board to consider should not be 2 board members. It should be 3, or it should just be no board members deciding that. It should be staff handling that because a quorum is 3.
So you're asking to adjust the semifinal interview phase, is that what
Yeah,
you're
one more
asking
slide.
to
If you
do?
go down one more slide, I'm reflecting to the question Commissioner
3?
Snyder asked,
Bullet 3.
Director Snyder asked. The top candidates advance to the final interview. It's not fair to have 2 board members be part of that decision making when the full board does not have visibility to that process and who advanced and not seeing it. So if they're interviewing 3 people and those 3 people are also moving to the full board, that's appropriate. But if you're saying there's 5 candidates, step number 3 goes through that group, and then 3 only comes to the full board, I don't think it's fair. It needs to be 3 board members or no board members at all.
So I think we understand your input. And so now the question goes to the full board. This is a process that we've used for all of our recruitments for our direct reports. We've also, I haven't heard you, Heather, mention this yet, but we've also found that there are folks that choose to drop out as candidates at each phase of the process for whatever reason. So I want to open the floor up to the other members of the board to see if you're comfortable with the plan that had been discussed previously, or if with further input and reflection, as with Commissioner Fye, you would like, or Director Fye, you would like to see change.
I think the board input in deciding who's going to be interviewed in the semifinal round is a significant step and represents significant board input from the entire board. I view the semifinal interview process as 2 board members participating as part of a group that is more on a fact-finding mission from the whole board to figure out of those, to narrow the candidates further. And I find that to be a very appropriate process. And I frankly think introducing a majority of the board into that process would potentially create public I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues that I can't even think through all of them. There'd be so many. So I think the process as it's outlined makes sense to me and provides the full board significant input.
So to make sure I'm not forgetting you there, Director Willie out there in Zoom land, would you like to speak next or wait until Director Treese?
No, I'll go ahead and speak now because I'm in agreement with what Jason just outlined there. There's, I think we are commissioning Pam and Jason to participate in this with the expectation that they're going to, of course, bring us the best candidates. I don't think we need to have this as a quorum situation because if you're going to do 3, then you're going to do 5. So I'm perfectly comfortable with the process as has been outlined.
Director Treese?
I'm comfortable with the process.
I will say I'm not comfortable.
Excuse me.
oh.
Can I speak?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Right. You usually speak the last, Chair.
And she was the last. You've already spoken.
No, I was asking a question. I was posing that. Okay, I'll speak. Relax.
Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I think the top candidates, if there are 5, they're going through this. 2 board members deciding who moves forward. I think it's not right, and this is a new way of doing business for the county. That's not what we participated in the county council. I don't remember this. Besides having, I think it needs to be. This is all public. It's not a public meeting, correct? It's an executive session or a private meeting.
It will be a private meeting
Yeah.
because there's not a majority of
Yeah.
the board.
And the meetings, the interviews we're conducting is an executive session out of the public's view.
Correct.
So I think for county government to be fully accessible and transparent, that step is not correct. I think it needs to be an executive session, and either all candidates move to the full board and we all have access to all the full board has all the candidates advance to that step, or we remove the board members and just have chief of staff, subject matter experts, and whoever we distill those candidates. I just think that I'm just realizing it just seems like, how do we have a fair process where we have preview to all the semifinals and who moves them, and that we're not, so I've said my piece. I think the chair is frustrated with me, so I want to be respectful here and be nice to my chair here. So Chair, I turn the mic to you. I will be quiet for now.
I would really like to close this topic. I'm comfortable with the process as we've discussed today and prior. I won't address any of the assertions that have been made here. And with that, we have direction from a majority of the board members.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we're closed on this topic. We can then move on to the next item on the agenda, Director and Leadership Communications. Why don't we make sure to start with Leadership Communications?
Sounds good. Well, good morning, CWS Board of Directors. Great to be here with you all at our first CWS dedicated board meeting and work session, especially after a nice vacation. I want to start by saying I heard great feedback from staff yesterday. We spent about 90 minutes going over the Friday work session. A lot of appreciation of the board from the team. We've got some great follow-up information that was captured, good action items, great feedback from y'all. So I know the staff felt really appreciative, and sorry to miss it, but I'm glad it went really well. So also, I want to talk a little bit about the Oregon legislative session. It started last week. February 2nd was also Water Day at the Capitol. We had a few members of our Ops Challenge team in Salem to present on workforce excellence as part of the Water Day. So you probably remember Skylar Edmondson, who came and had a very emotional interaction with you all. I know I was moved by that. He testified on behalf of CWS in support of HB 4005, the Water Professionals Appreciation Week. Pleased to report that the bill has passed out of committee and is set for a House floor vote today. And then a note, we did cancel the February CWAC meeting. We intended, as you know, to discuss cost of services also today, but we needed more time. And I appreciated early on the board saying, don't come on, don't feel like you have to hit it, get it right,
Do it right.
do it right. So the staff approached me with that, and I was really relieved that they did. And so we're making sure we've got all things in very good order. It's a really important topic with rates. So yeah, we'll be back in March 10th to present to the board on that work session item. And that is it from me.
Courtney, General Counsel, any public report out?
No.
Good answer.
So
Yeah.
Not a problem. We just always provide the opportunity.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And now I'll open the floor to the individual members of the board of directors. Who would like to go first?
Well, and I have nothing to report. Thank you.
I appreciated the presentation at the Tigard City Council meeting, the state of the partnership. I didn't get to stay because I did have a family event, but I went back and watched it. And they've just been very well received, and I think the Tigard Council really appreciated it.
The Friday training or Clean Water Services Day, we missed you. You missed out a great day, great discussion, just like this morning.
Yeah.
But it was very well. I have nothing else to report.
Good. Thank you.
Director Willie, anything? Yeah, that darn mute button.
Yeah, this format, my mute button hides from me. No, I don't have anything with the exception of I appreciate the staff's willingness to give me a briefing for that work session that I missed last week on the 6th.
Thank you
and
for
so-
following doctor's orders.
Some of the time.
Yeah, I think that's up for a question, Chair, but my wife wouldn't agree with you probably. But no, I have been trying to stay up on all this stuff and certainly look forward to the briefing I'll get Rick and Elizabeth from you guys' staff. So thank you for that. And other than that, I don't have anything.
And nothing further from me since the great meeting on Friday.
I have one quick thing. I attended by Zoom the CPO 7 meeting last night, and there was a presentation on the Bethany project, and they did a very good job.
Oh, great.
Yeah, the team's been making all the rounds at the CPO meetings, and I haven't heard anything other than positive.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. All right. Well, seeing nothing further, I'll adjourn today's work session meeting, and we'll see you all again March 10th. Thank you.
And we're